Sunday, back to basics. We're going to talk about breathing practice or the diaphragmatic release. Let me just adjust this down a little bit so everybody can see. Diaphragmatic release is this kind of action. And as you can tell, you can actually talk and do this. Doesn't affect you. I wonder if that's like, I don't know if there's this thing about circular breathing and opera singing. Don't know how to do it. It seems really cool though. But I don't know if that's part of it. But anyway, so diaphragmatic release. And so the practice that I do first thing, last thing every day includes these basic rules. Are there 5? I don't know how many rules there are. But there are rules. In through the nose, out through the mouth. When you breathe in, you count. When you breathe out, count. Just make sure the number's the same. Doesn't matter what the number is. Just make sure it's the same. Back is free somehow. You don't want to be leaning back into a chair. It's just about making sure this is as free as possible to do that kind of action that you want it to do. Making sure that happens. Diaphragmatic release means your stomach comes out. Stomach comes out when you, when you breathe in like this. And that your shoulders aren't going up and down. So if you can do it into a camera, like everybody's got one now, right? Or a mirror or whatever's easier. So you can see that your shoulders aren't moving and that it's all coming from here. And most importantly is to practice. What I mean by that, when I do it first thing, last thing every day, I'm talking about practicing, which means I have specific time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You don't have to do this for an hour and a half. You can if you want to, but it's not a requirement. 10, 15 minutes of good breaths where you're aware of all the rules that I just laid out. And there's a reason, there's a biological basis, psychological basis for all the rules. And you can rewind a couple of Sundays ago, 4 or 5 Sundays ago, where I laid it all out because I don't want to do it again. But those are the basic rules. Practice, yeah, I practice twice a day. So in other words, when I'm practicing, it's just like when I'm practicing the piano. I'm practicing when you guys aren't listening, so that when you do listen, you go, oh my God, he's so talented. How does he do that? And as a good friend of mine, Tim Strum, told his daughter this past week, he does it by practicing. So that you can do the flub ups and you can forget the words for the most part when nobody's watching. Also, and this is so you can do this when it's not imperative, when you're in a situation where there's mostly nothing going on, or it's that planned time. There can be things going on, but it's part of your routine. This is when you're practicing, and you can do it once a day. I do recommend though that if you do it once a day, you don't do it last thing, because if it gets connected to sleeping, it's not going to be as useful when you're in a meeting and you're sleeping in the meeting. So when I do it in the morning, obviously it's how I'm waking up, I'm getting going, I'm getting energized. And so it's not a thing that's connected to sleep. So that is the back to basics in the context of the diaphragmatic release. Little thing I want to throw out for today, in the context of the culture that I'm most closely connected to this time of year is about giving. And it just occurs to me that with all that is going on in the world, it's a great opportunity for me to think about the choices that I make in the context of others and not me. And then it creates a purpose for those choices. Whereas if I make the choice to distance myself from somebody, wear a mask, all these kinds of things, it can be about other people. It can be about what they may or may not need, what they want, even though I'm not sure. Like, it's like, it's not, this is kind of how we are. Like you would do your best to make everyone around you as comfortable as you could. You wouldn't do anything unless you were in a specific, unless you were doing it for a reason. You wouldn't do anything to inherently make the people around you uncomfortable. And so it's a great way to do something that could potentially create comfort for the people around you. So yes, it's a season of giving, and this idea of the teeny little things that we can do that can have an effect on other people. Another thing occurred to me today that I found quite interesting. Early on, way back when I first started doing these, back in February or March or whenever that was, I was talking about how we need to create a language so that we can communicate our needs to others at a distance. And that's something that's going to be absolutely essential. And it occurred to me today, these months later, that I hadn't even really done that with my family. And then it occurred to me, oh my gosh, well, that's a lot easier, because I don't have to negotiate with a stranger. I can start negotiating just with the people around me and the people who I'm already connected to and people who I love. And so that's cool. And so, yeah, so the idea of navigating this conversation about distance and masks and comfort and where we're all at, so that I'm able to support you in the choices that you're making. Again, back to that giving thing. I can start with my family and talking to them about their needs and understanding where they're at when we're entering a situation or facing a challenge around what's going on now or whatever it happens to be. So those are some things to think about for Back to Basics Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday in most territories, as far as I know. And I will be back then with more What's Next with Dr. Joel, and we'll figure out what's next then.